So uni started back this week, right? And like John, you obviously know.
Yes, I do.
You obviously know. So we go
as a fellow attendee of university. I can indeed confirm it did start this.
Okay,
week.
fuckface. That wasn't the story I was going to fucking tell. No, but there's a local bar, right? The Hawker. And we're such regulars there. This is how this podcast started, right? And this is obviously such a local conversation to be having. But we go back, and standard me, I have a Thursday afternoon slot where I just don't have anything for 3 hours, right? And then my next class is at 5:30 at night. I'm sitting there and I'm going, look, I got 3 hours to spare here. What's a little harm with a bit of day drinking, right? We know the bar staff. The bar staff knows us. They love us, right? The Hawker, good friends of the podcast, good friends of the company. I get there, here with a couple of my law buddies. We're sitting down and we're sinking some beers, right? But we're not sinking too many because that would be irresponsible before class. So we're sinking a nice cheeky few. It gets to about 5 o'clock, right? And we've bantered with the dude behind the bar at this point in time. And we've gone, all right, look, kitchen opens at 5. We're going to order quick chips, but we got to go, man. Like, we got to go in about 10 minutes. So if it's possible to get these chips out ASAP, that would be lit. And he's like, don't worry, boys. I got you, right? Bear in mind the time frame. We got so class starts at 5:30. The bar is not on campus, so we got to walk, right? So which ergo leaves us a little bit of time. I say dip at 5:15 at the latest, right? In my opinion. That way it gives me about 5 minutes to get onto campus, and I got to find my seat. I'm a guy who likes to find my seat.
It's true. Dave needs at least 10 to 15 minutes to find like the optimal seat for him. But
it's not even just finding it. It's about getting there early enough that no one else has jumped in my seat. Right, my seat is like kind of towards the back of the lecture theatre and bang in the middle. Right, it's where the sound meets.
Yeah, if you can see Dave right now, he's actually kind of leaning back in the seat, kind of creating his own space, literally.
Yeah,
like 3-dimensionally. You don't let gravity tell you what to do. This is your seat now.
I define my own terms.
He does.
All right, so that's what I'm getting. I'm like, okay, boys, we got to dip this bar 15 past. All right, and they're sitting there going, "What are you talking about? Class doesn't start at 5:30. We could probably leave here at 5:30 and get there in time." I'm like, no, that's not how it works. All right. So the chips come out. Chips come out 10 past. The dude also chucks on the layer of the meme of this story, plants down the chips, and also plants down a jug of dark pale ale and goes, don't worry, boys, on the house, welcome back, Dave. All right? And like stares at me. And I go,
everyone claps.
I literally just told you that we got to go in 5 minutes. What have you done to us? And he walks off smirking. So here we have this jug between 3 people of this dark ale that is, for all intents and purposes, a sipper, right? And I'm not one to let beer go to waste, all right?
No.
And any friend of this podcast is someone who doesn't let beer go, alcohol in general, actually, go to waste, all right? So he's essentially thrown down the gauntlet onto the table with the chips and the jug and gone, you got to chug this jug as well as finish these chips. You've got 5 minutes, motherfucker. And I've gone, God damn it, challenge accepted, motherfucker. All right. So we've just made time. Now, granted, we've smashed beers up until this point. He's thrown down this last jug and gone, here you go. We've chugged that. My God, do you not want to chug heavy beers? That entire lecture, I'm sitting there buzzed and heavy, right? Buzzed is one thing. But to sit in a lecture theatre where your stomach is just like at its worst, like there's like concrete sitting in there, right? And I'm sitting there, and this is like...
It's making that god-awful sound that...
It's not even making sounds. It's just like I will make the sounds for it. So I'll be sitting there, and I'll lean forward to go type on my laptop, and I'll go, fuck. And then you add on the fact that I'm buzzed, right? Because of the fucking... I've been mixing beers up until that point.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, great start to week one. Great start to week one.
Welcome back, Dave.
Yeah. Welcome back, Dave.
Welcome
Looks
back.
me up and down, smirks. Welcome back, Dave.
And with that, welcome to Pint Party, a podcast designed to turn a beer into chat into a tax write-off. I'm your host, John McLeish. Joining me, as always, the regular David Yang. David, welcome.
Good moment.
Moderately sober. And joining us this week is a very special guest, friend of the show. He is, I knew him as like the one other person in the journalism course. But since then, he's gone on to do slam poetry and a bunch of other hipstery shit. And now he's doing stand-up comedy. I want to welcome Peter Matthews to the show. Peter, welcome.
Hi, man bun sounds.
Yeah, man bun sounds intensifies.
Do we throw in an applause soundbite right there? That was an excellent intro.
It was,
Yeah,
well,
really
I've been
nice.
thinking about it, you know. I thought
Welcome to the show, Pete.
Welcome to the show.
Oh, man, it's so good
Long
to see you
time
guys.
listener, first time guest.
That's it. Like, I mean, like, I found out about the show not so long ago. John said to me, "Hey, whatever you do, don't listen to episode 6." And I'm like, "Oh, I have to hear this."
Oh, PSA to everyone: don't listen to episode 6.
Yeah.
Which, if anything, they hear that and they go, "Well, what am I going to do?
Yeah.
I'm going to listen to episode 6, you dickheads."
But that's how you do it, man. You turn a fuck up into a feature.
Yeah,
and
fuck yeah.
Everybody's like, oh yeah, okay, cool. You know, I get where you're coming from right now.
That's like the story of Australian architecture. Just like screw everything up, put it right in the middle, just like display it like a dog that's just ripped up its house. Go, this is the feature.
Yep.
This is a featurist exposition. That's not the right word.
I don't know what the word is.
$1 million.
That's it, yeah.
So Jordan, I don't know if you've known him longer, but I've known you a significant amount of time as well, Pete, and I've known you to do so many different things. Like,
It's true.
I know you do slam poetry, but just before we started this, I heard that you fucking do stand-up now as well.
To be fair, I only heard he did stand up like last week, and he didn't tell me. It was one of his buddies.
Yeah.
It was like, oh yeah, he does stand up comedy. I'm like, since fucking when?
Oh fuck, that's hilarious. Because like I don't think of myself as a stand-up at all. Like I
Do you just think of yourself as a guy that just goes there and goes, "Look, I'm funny," like, and I'll just talk?
I'm just desperate to be loved, to be honest.
Oh,
Like,
aren't we all?
Oh, let me tell you, like, yeah, if I weren't wearing a leather jacket right now, my nipples would be heavily rubbed. Just, like, partly from seeing you, partly so that you would be looking at me. But, like, the thing is, I'm more into comedy writing. Like, I just want to, it's so hard to make words on a page funny. Like, I mean, our idea of comedy is very different to the comedian's idea of comedy, where like you have to time everything right, kind of like every 30 seconds or so you'll have not a punchline but a situation these days that's funny.
Yeah.
So like the audience is laughing a little bit while you're still talking, whereas I mean, you can actually very easily fake that, and a lot of the highest paid comedians these days do fake that just by like bringing up the energy and doing things that will make people laugh.
Well, that's what I've always like. I love like stand-ups, right? So my favorite stand-up's Bert Kreischer, right? And like I love Bert Kreischer, and you got guys like obviously everyone knows like Kevin Hart, right? Who still kills the scene, does stadium tours. Like he's a big comedian. And then like you got Eddie Murphy, you got all the like the Dave Chappelles of the world, right?
Yeah.
But they've all described, especially Bert Kreischer, he's described it as almost a scientific formula, right? Where like you can teach comedy in a way. Right, so like you said, you can teach how to enunciate, when to hit specific beats, how to hit specific beats. The only thing I guess you can't teach is finding a situation, right? Which really sets other comics apart from other ones. It's like Bert Kreischer finds himself, like he's the machine, right? If everyone knows Bert Kreischer, he tells this fucking excellent story about how he once joined the Russian mafia, right? But that's only him, right? Only he joined the Russian mafia. Someone like Kevin Hart wouldn't be able to tell that, but they could break down the science of it, where it was like, all right, introduction to a point in character, funny bit about that, right? Then situation, right? Punchline of situation. It comes down to this formula, which I think is so interesting. Is it the same thing for stand-up, though? Like, you got to have a tight 5, and then, like, you build on from that.
Yeah, it's identical. You're actually describing stand-up right now.
Oh, am I? Then what the fuck?
Yeah.
Oh.
That's what you.
I was describing stand-up.
Yeah, I thought that was the point you were trying to make that whole time.
Oh, okay. Well, then I just described stand-up. That was my point. All right. Stand-up comedy is comedy.
That's so interesting, though. Like, I've noticed this. The more things that I've looked into and studied. For example, I have this crackpot theory right now that horror and comedy are the same thing.
Okay.
So, like, the way we scare people, because I was talking a minute about how, like, the highest paid people, they just come out, they jump out, and, like, they raise your energy suddenly. That's a jump scare.
Yeah.
So, like, a lot of the top billed people are kind of the jump scares of the world. And then, like, you have someone like Bert... I don't know. I can never say his name properly because, like, I listen to Tom Segura, who, like...
Oh, God. They're
like,
fucking the bestest of mates. I love that.
he deliberately says the guy's name wrong all the time. So I'm like, Bart Crystals. So, like, he is a master storyteller. I would say he is one of the best living storytellers right now.
100%. 100% one of the best storytellers of all time, dude.
Yeah,
especially in like that stand-up forum, because what I've noticed, this is just going to become the stand-up cast. I love stand-up comedy, right? We've barely even touched the surface. But yeah, you're right. Bert Kreischer, and this is like in essence of what every stand-up is, but you can't teach, in my opinion, this like purity of being an excellent storyteller. Like it has got to be innate in you, I believe, right? Everyone has stories, but to be a storyteller is something so different. right? Like, because there's that, you got to appeal to so many different people. Whereas Bert, he's been managed to do that. Right, the idea of like he can pitch to his family, that's one layer. But being able to like tell a story where so many different people can gravitate towards it, you can't teach that.
Yeah,
like Bert is so fucking good.
It's ridiculous how much is happening behind the scenes while we're watching this stuff. Because like the thing I admire most behind Bert and all the others is just how much they make themselves look shitty and impromptu.
Yeah.
Like we were talking before about how much effort goes into looking spontaneous. Like before the start of the show when we were figuring out how we were going to sound spontaneous. But like, yeah, it's insane. Like that is completely rote. It's like learning a language and becoming fluent. You can only practice. You can't write that down. And it's timing as well. Like the element of timing in comedy is something you have to practice over and over. And that's what everyone means when they say you go to the open mics heaps and you suck like for years. Which I haven't done. Like I've just gone into the internet and sucked a lot, which everyone sucks on the internet, so that's okay.
I feel like if you don't suck on the internet, you're not doing the internet right. Like the internet is built for people to demonstrate and put forward their stupidness.
Yeah.
Like, so actually, you know what, Pete, you might be able to help me with this. John, you might be able to help me with it too. I was actually having a debate the other day because I've been getting back into Seinfeld. Seinfeld, for all intents and purposes for me, is the greatest, like, I just got to sit in the background, chuck it on, and you can chuck it on anywhere because it's a show about nothing, right? You can chuck it on at any point, watch it, and you'll just binge, right? And you can go to sleep to it. You can do anything to Seinfeld. But the debate I was having is, Jerry Seinfeld, is he the greatest comedian of all time? In the essence of, like, someone who started in stand-up, right? And if we're going to go by, like, different comedy in different forums, it has to be written in different ways, he mastered stand-up so much so that he got offered a television gig, which to write a sitcom, which I would imagine is so different to stand-up. And not only did he just write a sitcom, he arguably wrote the greatest sitcom of all time, right, in Seinfeld. Such a transcendent... It's still so prevalent today, right? It's timeless in its presentation. And if Lachlan was here, he'd fucking back me up on it too. It's one of the best written shows ever, right? In how it hits its punchlines, different punchlines all throughout the show on the same narrative, which is something not a lot of sitcoms nowadays seem to be able to kind of like be able to do in that kind of like multi-dimensional writing. But Seinfeld did that, and he mastered stand-up. Then he's dabbled in movies, but I don't know if I count movies as a level of comedic success. Otherwise, then someone like Kevin Hart might be like up there in that discussion of greatest comedian of all time.
Yeah.
Right? Like, that's like, I'd like to get your perspective, Peter, someone who has dabbled in the arts. Do you see where I'm coming from with why I can potentially look at someone like Jerry Seinfeld, which, by the way, net worth, $950 million. Like, what the fuck? For a comic? Yo. Like, he's genuinely made bank off just telling stories. But is he the greatest of all time?
Yeah, shit. Like
from someone who's managed to just transcend. So comedy is so different, right? There's stand-up, there's television.
I'm just floating above it all.
Yeah.
It's like, from the perspective of an auteur who is better than all of you and therefore does not need to practice. It's such a tough question because I don't have the answer.
I feel like no one really should, and that's why, like, I say greatest of all time, but that's just obviously my subjective stupidity coming into play here. But, like, you know, if I'm trying to find objectivity in it, in the sense of his stand-up, like, granted, I haven't watched much of it, but it was good stand-up, right? He was not knocked for being a shit stand-up comic. Like, he was actually a really good stand-up comic. So much so that he did get offered Seinfeld, the gig on television, and then that killed it, right? Like, he managed to, like, and they're two completely different kinds of writing. Right, so different in the like how you write a stand-up gig, you type 5 or whatever, like the kind of structure, and then you write a sitcom for 9-10 seasons at the level that it was. Seinfeld, man,
it's just mind blowing because it seems like especially the people who started off around the 90s, like they got the big break and then they were just kind of told what they were going to be the best of all time at, which just shows the raw talent of these people. Like another really good one from around that time is Fran Drescher, who was in The Nanny. Like exact same thing. Like she was just out acting, just kind of going like, okay, I'll throw this idea at the wall, And the same thing happened to her when she just happened to be in a plane one day with an executive. And she kind of goes, well, last weekend. And we do the exact same thing when we sit down in a comedy writing room. It's just like, so what did you do this week? Oh, well, I did this thing. Okay, how do we make that funny? And you just hack at it for ages.
Yeah.
One of the writers for Everybody Loves Raymond talked about that specifically, where like one of the ways that they would get ideas for episodes would be they would just talk about arguments they had with their wives.
Sounds like my life.
But the thing is, though, it is like when you've done a show like Everybody Loves Raymond for long enough, it gets to the point where like he'll be in like the writer will be in an argument with his wife and like not even trying to win the argument, just trying to remember like the plot points of that argument so they could write it into a script later. And then that would become a source of arguments between like spouses because the wife would be like, don't you fucking put this into an episode.
That's amazing. I reckon, like, without getting too much off topic, I reckon that's what people do. They just
don't be afraid to go off topic.
This
is Pint Party.
I tried to talk about Wolfenstein Youngblood a couple of weeks ago, and then we spent most of that time like bashing Destiny 2. So like that's
which then
how the
stemmed
podcast
into
works.
Robert Downey Jr. Like,
yeah,
this is Pint Party.
that's what happens.
Going off on tangents and semantics is literally the podcast.
Yeah.
Follow your train of thought. Don't be afraid.
Yeah, I'm just trying to think like who was I hearing about before? It wasn't Robert Downey Sr., but like there's this show on TV, Grace and Frankie, where like, so you've got the two main characters of the ex-wives of a gay couple who are like these two very funny guys. Robert De Niro, that's it.
Oh.
You just reminded me, Robert De Niro Sr. was a gay artist. And in this TV show, Robert De Niro Jr. is basically playing him, but he's married to, I think it's Martin Sheen.
Yeah.
Like other really
Martin
funny...
Sheen. I know Martin Sheen's one of them. I don't know who the other bloke is. No, that's not...
Are you saying De Niro, or are you meant to be saying Downey Jr.?
No, De Niro.
De Niro.
Like,
I didn't know his dad's name was also De Niro.
I don't think he's De Niro because, oh God, because he was in the Newsroom as well, that actor. And I really liked the Newsroom. Yeah, he was like the old fella on the Newsroom. Hang on, I'm going to Google Grace and Frankie.
Pete, if you had to do
real quick.
a Mount Rushmore, do you know what a Mount Rushmore discussion is?
Wait, what?
Okay,
Sam Waterston. No, it's Sam Waterston. That's his name.
So the concept of a Mount Rushmore is you got to make 4 picks, right? But to differentiate it from like a top 4 or a top 5 kind of like discussion, Mount Rushmore is one isn't necessarily better than the other, but they've all had an impact in that genre or in that topic that we're talking about.
That's much better than figuring out.
Yeah, that's what I thought. I love a good Mount Rushmore discussion, and I want to introduce more Mount Rushmores to the fucking to the podcast. But what I'm getting at is, if you had to make a Mount Rushmore of sitcoms, right? So sitcoms that like either when in their inception changed the way sitcoms were written, or were just so outstanding that they've transcended their like decade or their time period. So something like Seinfeld so Seinfeld's on my Mount Rushmore, right? That's my first pick on Mount Rushmore because of its well written and the fact that it's held up over 30 years now, right? So if you had to do a Mount Rushmore of the greatest sitcoms that have changed the genre of hilarity, what are you putting on there?
Well, let's be honest, first of all, like, as much as we're talking about the subjectivity of shit, like, if you took that Mount Rushmore and you put Jerry, Kramer, Elaine, and George, like, no one would be able to beat you at that argument. Like,
no, that's true. Also, sitcom characters.
Yeah, but, like, sitcoms themselves, I don't know, because like I have so many feelings of love and hate for sitcoms. Like, I think because they're on TV every night, like maybe I'm just like, oh, this is the thing we're having shoved down our throats. Is our beliefs for tonight? Oh, fucking sitcoms.
No, I feel that. That's what ruined The Big Bang Theory for me. Like, oh my God, The Big Bang Theory. So
I have a love-hate with Big Bang.
I used to like The Big Bang Theory. I really did. And I used to watch it. I used to watch it on free-to-air TV. Right, and free-to-air TV used to be on at like 7 o'clock at night every night, and I was like, sweet, that's cool. And then they would do reruns in the off season. I was like, that's fine too, because you get the off season. And this is back before Netflix and stuff was like a regular thing. So like, you would just be forced to wait, like you were under the control of the free-to-air broadcasters. And whenever they decided, oh, we've got the money to buy the next season, then they can do it. It's like whenever they could be fucked, right? And but it got to the point where they knew they had a good show because it was the #1 comedy in the US, right? That's why it was in Australia at all. They don't like, and this is Channel 9. I'm going to put Channel 9 on blast specifically because they fuck Star Trek the same way.
Fuck Channel 9 in general.
Right. And like it got to the point though where they knew they had a good show, and they were trying to like bank on that for their other shows. So they're like, hey, you like the Big Bang Theory? It'll be on right after The Block. And it's like, I don't want to watch a bunch of assholes fuck up a house and then watch the Big Bang Theory, right?
No, that's the only show left, though.
Yeah, that's
like
all they
8
got.
assholes.
Yeah.
Put in a room together and unable to communicate. 7, 8, and 9:30 tonight.
Yeah. With that one guy who did a lifestyle show that one time, and he was pretty good in that lifestyle show, and then they tried to turn him into a personality, only to find he was really two-dimensional.
All the celebrities we can afford, which isn't many, tonight.
You just both have completely described perfectly daytime and nighttime television in
Yeah.
Australia.
Yeah.
It's fine.
And it got even worse than that, though, with the Big Bang Theory, because they would do that, and then they would play the same episodes every week. I'm not even kidding you. They played the same episode 2 nights in a row once. Like the exact same episode.
It is hard to watch Big Bang Theory because it's genuinely, I would consider it like the example of a show that has well and truly outlived its time.
It has.
Like it had like, and this is like, it's unpopular opinion because like nowadays when you hear the name Big Bang Theory and like normies
Bing
come to you
Bong
and
Theory.
they go, oh, that show. It didn't start off that way. That show didn't start off as a cringe topic. Like it was a good show.
Yeah.
In its inception and in its infancy seasons. Like those first 3 seasons, brilliant, right? They hit all the beats of what it's like to be like. Obviously, they exaggerated being a nerd in that regard, especially
for comedic
Sheldon.
effect.
Like especially Sheldon, right? But just for comedic effect, yeah. But after a while, you've hit all the kinds of things that you could possibly do.
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
And then they had to introduce the supporting characters of like their love interests. At that point, the show went down because that wasn't about.
I disagree.
what was them.
I think the show that gave it some new legs, and then it ran out of steam though.
I'll agree with that, but it didn't give it new legs for long.
I can't remember her name. The woman who plays Sheldon's girlfriend.
I know she's like a proper scientist in real life.
She's a scientist.
She's a legit neuroscientist with a PhD and everything.
That's really cool.
Yeah. And she works as like a. She doesn't officially work.
She
as
moonlights as an actress here and there.
No. She started out as an actress. She was a child actress. Yeah. And then she went, you know what? I want to go to university and do something different. She got into neuroscience and got a PhD and shit.
Dude, every time, like just going on to that vein there, someone like Natalie Portman always like
yeah, she has a master's degree in Chinese history or something.
Yeah, she's like a proper like academic.
Yeah.
Like, there's not many of them in Hollywood. Like, and Natalie Portman is like that example because like she's so renowned.
No, they've always been in Hollywood. That's
they're
the
all
thing.
good examples.
But someone like Natalie Portman is so renowned
Yeah.
as like this actress that you almost don't even think she does anything else.
No, it always pops up as a did you know bonus fact.
Yeah.
Right? But like, no, they've always been around. Like the lady who, I think it was it the lady who invented Wi-Fi? Or something, or not Wi-Fi, or something. I don't know. It was some big invention. I think it was Wi-Fi, off the top of my head. She was an actress as well.
Fuck.
And I was like, oh, okay, far out.
Yeah.
But to those,
Like-
Or it was the thing that preceded Wi-Fi, like just before, like you know, the necessary tech to make Wi-Fi an invention.
what,
Shit.
dial-up?
I don't know what it was. It was something. Anyway,
Phones!
I think she was an actress too.
Fuck, what a shit era that was. God, like I cannot, like now that we have Wi-Fi, we have this benefit of retrospective, but fuck me, can I not go back to dial-up? Can I not go back to that classic conversation of coming home from school, going up to mum and being like, Mum, can I unplug the phone so I can play RuneScape? Like, fuck, man. Like, I cannot think about that world anymore.
Dude,
such a different era, man.
At least you had your own dial-up. I used to share a dial-up connection with my uncle in Berwick. So, like, I would get home.
That's dangerous.
And, like, we could use the internet until 5 o'clock. And then we had to get off the internet at 5 o'clock because that's when my uncle would get home to his house and start using the internet.
Well, this is like similarly to that. But it's still this whole dial-up stupidity of like, mum would be like, you can play up until 6 because I'm expecting a call.
Yeah.
Like, fucking,
Yep.
what an era.
That had happened too.
what a
Like,
time to be
I'd get
alive.
home and, like, friend would be over and my dad's friend would be like, oh, hey, do you mind if I just make a couple calls? Right? And he was always supposed to put 20 cents in the jar and he never did.
Did you have a call jar?
Yeah, we had a call
Oh,
jar.
that's such a good moment.
Because we had a really good deal. It was like like 20 cents for a local national call, and it was just talk as long as you want after 20 cents.
Yeah.
And so it was only for like people who didn't live in the house. Like whenever friends would come over, they wanted to make a call. No worries, drop 20 cents in the jar. You talk for as long as you want.
Yeah.
And so, but like if I got home from school and he was there, I was like, he's gonna make He's like, oh, I only need to make 2 phone calls. He always made at least 5 phone calls. So I'd be like, well, okay, that's that for the whole afternoon. He's just going to sit in there and make phone calls.
So I suppose that was kind of the messenger of its time as well.
Yeah.
Like hopping on the phone for hours.
Yeah.
Because a lot of us don't do that anymore, even though like it's a superior form of human connection, I think, like actually talking to people on the phone. But I sure as shit couldn't be bothered doing it.
I mean, for the most part, though, like when I really break down what I communicate, for the most part, it's like I want to tell Dave something funny. I don't need to call Dave for 30 seconds to tell him the funny thing, right? It's like I can just send that in a message and he can read it whenever he wants. 9 times out of 10, whenever I message Dave something, it's to send him some kind of a meme or something I saw on Reddit. Which, by the way, I saw a really good Ask Reddit that you should read. I got to send that.
Dude,
to you.
I live on Ask Reddit, man.
Right? I saw a thread and I was like, "This is Dave to a T. Like, you need to read this."
Fucking suss
What was it?
Oh god, I can't remember. It's in my saved list. I have to go and suss through it.
Yeah,
But just onto that, like, you're 100% right. Like, this whole idea that we've now shifted away from verbal communication, essentially, because, like, just using Seinfeld as an example, because I was watching it last night, like, almost every episode, and almost, not every scene, but every episode, they make phone calls. Because that's the way, if they're not together, they have to communicate via the phone and being like, but that's how they'll do the things that we do on Messenger now, right? It almost, and it's definitely, like, I've noticed, I don't know if it's actually scientifically proven, but the generation today is actually so afraid psychologically to make calls.
No, that's a thing.
Yeah, that's what I'm getting.
Yeah,
Which
anxiety.
is so interesting.
I know.
Like,
My sister's like that. Seriously, if you call my sister, she will not answer the phone if she's out in public. She will only answer the phone if she's at home alone in her room.
yeah, it's almost
feel
at that
that.
point now where you get an anxiety, not an anxiety attack. Some people actually get anxiety attacks, but you get anxiety by your phone ringing.
I get excited about the phone ringing.
Yeah, so do I. Like, I'm
fuck
like,
yeah.
I don't consider myself part of that. Like, I am, but I'm like, I don't consider that aspect of that generation as a part of me.
No.
Because I love I do most of my stuff via the phone.
Yeah.
Right. I like to call via the phone. In fact, I prefer to call because
you don't.
I do.
No, you don't.
I really do.
Because throughout our entire relationship, you're like, if you call me, I'm not going to answer the phone. You got to
in the course of the marriage.
Oh, because
Right?
some
only
things,
call me when it's important shit. I'm
if
like,
it's
okay.
like a general, like we're just talking about something that doesn't need specific things to be made from it, or if we're trying to get tone. I was having this conversation the other day with a mate who fucking absolute dickhead. The subject matter of what he writes, or he's actually it leads into my point about you. It's very difficult to get tone across in Messenger. I don't think so. I like to believe I've mastered the art of getting across not only my tone,
you believe so?
but like. Not just my tone, but like the seriousness / lack of seriousness of what I'm trying to get across. That way people look at it, read it and go, oh, it's banter. David's just bantering, right? I've noticed not many people can do that, right? Because they write so like the way you're taught, right? No elongated letters, no ... no ellipses, no throwing of emojis, no like random capitalizations in order to illustrate mocking, right? So like nowadays, the random capitalizations in a word means like, I'm mocking you kind of thing, right?
Yeah, have you ever gotten into like accidental fights where like someone doesn't know you're joking?
Yeah,
or
that's
like,
what I'm getting at, right? Because my mate sent a goddamn message and it was like, it came off as stiff, but he wasn't stiff, right? Like he was like, when I was talking to him, he was just like, no, like I was just having a bit of a laugh. I'm like, well, that's not how it fucking reads. I'm like, and he's like, what are you talking about? It's like, I was just writing it. I'm like, that's the problem. That's the problem. You will write how you talk. So if I talk in breaks, which I do, right, I'll throw in ellipses. Right? But that's not how you're trained to write academically, right? So there is this art now to being able to get across emotion via text, which I think needs to be taught.
that would be nice,
Especially if we're moving away from like telephone communication.
Yeah.
Because that's the beauty of it. Being able to hear someone's voice and being like, oh, based on the inflections I'm hearing now, oh, they're joking. Oh, we can have a bit more banter. You're not the same via text.
Yeah, I mean, we have a few things, but they're not really enough. Like on Reddit, you can go /s, and then people know you're being sarcastic. But it kills the joke. Like all the irony is gone if you suddenly go, by the way, I'm being sarcastic.
Yeah, but you got to on Reddit though, because like
Reddit's almost a completely different kind of text-based communication.
Yeah.
Like, it's a language of itself. I said TLDR to someone the other day, and they're like, what the fuck are you saying? I'm like, oh, fuck
Are you serious?
you.
My 60-year-old father knows what TLDR means.
Dude, like, it's actually surprising how many people don't fuck with Reddit.
But
It's the...
That's my point.
How
My dad
dare.
doesn't. I don't even know if my dad knows that Reddit exists. and he knows what TLDR means.
But you obviously would have said TLDR to
I
him
must
prior in the past.
And in that
you're
virus.
probably not even remembering it, but you probably had to explain
But then
to
it was
him.
but then it was like 6 seconds of conversation. Oh, it means too long, didn't read. Oh, okay. It's just a way of saying in short. Oh, okay. It's a 30-second conversation tops.
I'm not saying it's a fucking long conversation. All I'm saying is it almost feels like because we've spent so much time on Reddit, at least I have, it's like I forget that I have to have that conversation with people that aren't on Reddit, where I've just gone, oh, by the way, TLDR, blah, 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 blah. And they've gone, what the fuck is TLDR? Like, God damn it, you're right. Fuck. So in short, right, in summary of what my banter was just then, blah.
You know what? TLDR is one of the most nuanced things we've ever come up with in
Dude, I
English
fucking love
language.
acronyms. I
Because,
live
like,
for acros.
I mean, not only is it like, that was too long, I didn't read it, but like, as you know, that feeling you get when it's like, bam, I want something snappier. We do the same thing at the end of the post when we go, oh, by the way, TLDR, this is what I meant. So it's like we've added an extra synapse. Like there's a part in your brain that is dedicated to TLDR, and it fires up and gives you a nice little feeling when you kind of go either, okay, couldn't be bothered, or like, here's the couldn't be bothered version. So it's like when you read the phrase TLDR, like...
Would you start with the TLDR or end with the TLDR?
I always end because like you can write a completely different thing that's funny for the people who haven't read the entire thing.
Yeah.
It's just like...
Yeah, the
so-
truth is like it's almost like its own separate punchline.
It is, yeah.
Which is the beauty of it.
But like some people write it at the start, which I never understood. It was sort of like, why you? It's because I get that like the way you would write a TLDR is basically like it's a headline, right?
Yeah.
But then you don't put it at the start. The convention is you put it at the bottom, and I've seen people starting to put it at the top, and I'm like, anybody who was even remotely interested in this in the first place is okay to tap on see more to flick to the TLDR. Right? If you're so cannot be arsed that you can't even do that, they weren't going to read the TLDR anyway.
That's where it gets wild though, because we've just found out that like when you have something spoiled for you, it actually doesn't ruin the experience.
No.
What?
Yeah, that's why we can watch movies over and over again, or even like read books that you like multiple times. You still like something if it's been spoiled for you.
No, but even like there's a difference between being spoiled on something that... So like, in that situation... I've gone into the movie for the first time without a spoiler, watched it, and then it's not a spoiler essentially after I finished watching it because I'm not going to watch it again because I enjoyed the movie. A spoiler before even watching the movie for the first time, that's different.
Yeah, like burn the whole thing down.
Are you justifying that?
Yeah, actually, like, okay, let's take a really big one, like Fight Club.
All right, by the way, just spoilers to anyone who hasn't seen
Sorry,
Fight Club.
listener. But yeah, like if you reveal the great big spoiler in Fight Club, which it actually was ruined for me. Like I was halfway through the book.
I still haven't watched Fight Club.
Oh, okay.
Are you
I won't
serious?
ruin it.
I know the fucking
Ironically.
spoiler, but like I haven't watched Fight Club.
Dude, it's like
I know.
it, like.
Oh.
So, I mean, some people take it way too seriously and are like, "This is how men should be." And I'm like, "No. It's no. The whole point of the fucking thing is like, dudes don't do this, right?" But as a result, it's like it's a good movie that gets that point across. Dudes don't do this.
Yeah, do you understand like the kind of plot where like there's this guy getting away from his perfect looking life and like he just moves into like this rundown it's a mansion but it's literally falling apart.
Yeah, it's
And
a condemned house.
All I know is a punchline. I literally don't know anything else about it. I know Edward Norton's in it. I know Brad Pitt's in it.
Oh, okay.
Aside from that, and the punchline, I don't know any of the narrative beats, which I think is a good thing, right? Like, obviously, people, like, when it comes to that movie, the punchline is the movie, essentially, which I don't believe... Oh, my God. Okay. Quick side tangent.
Hey.
Really quick side tangent. It's something I'm fucking so passionate about. The movie Shutter Island. I think it's trash, right?
I haven't
Okay.
seen it.
Okay.
Neither have I.
You haven't seen it?
Let's call it Crash. Let's
All right,
go
hold
with
on,
you.
but let me justify why I believe it's trash.
Okay.
That movie is heralded as like a really, really good movie, right? By like critical standards. People go like, oh, it's one of DiCaprio's best. Mark Ruffalo is excellent in it. I'm not disputing the acting. The acting is not in dispute for me whatsoever. The fucking narrative is that movie is built on its climax, so its twist. Right, so it's a movie that has a big twist, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to give up the twist for all intents and purposes.
I know the twist.
You know the twist. I think like most people kind of know the twist, right?
Is it one of them M. Night Shyamalan movies?
I think it is.
Is it a
M. Night
Shyamalan movie?
Yeah.
I was just gonna like make fun of the twist by going, "Oh, he was dead all along."
No.
Well, there you go.
So this movie builds itself on the twist. Now that twist happens at the end of a 2.5 to almost 3 hour movie.
Oh Jesus!
Right,
Oh.
that it literally happens at the final 20 minutes,
Oh
right,
my God.
of that final third act.
Okay. Yeah.
Up until that, yes, justifiably, they put in sprinkles throughout the entire movie of showing you why. So like if you were to watch back, you'd be like, oh, I can see that twist. It wasn't just a shock twist that people going, oh, fuck, right? And then it made no sense if you never watched it back. It made sense if you watch it back. You can see things where it's like, oh yeah, that makes sense. What I'm getting at is the first 2.5 hours of that movie suck. So dry, so long, so draining, right? But to the point where I love the twist and I thought it was a fucking excellent execution of it, but that doesn't salvage the movie for me. That final 20 minutes doesn't make a movie great.
I agree.
Right? It doesn't. If those first 2.5 hours suck, then that movie sucks.
No, I know exactly what you mean. Like the King Kong movie, the remake by Peter Jackson, complete and utter fucking trash. Holy shit, what a terrible movie. Right? What an atrocious waste of Jack Black. Right?
And Jack Black's a fucking treasure.
Jack Black is a fucking global human treasure. Right.
Consider this my final will and testament. I want Jack Black to play me in my autobiography.
We'll make it happen.
Right.
I want The Rock to play me and portray me in my early stages of my life, and I want Jack Black to portray me in the later stages.
Going from The Rock to Jack Black.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. No, they'll make it work. They'll make it work. I'll have a midlife crisis and then I'll look like Jack Black.
Yep.
Right? But fuck Jack Black is like, I love The Rock and The Rock is my spirit human, but like, let's be honest, let's be realistic. I'm probably closer to Jack Black.
Yeah.
Right?
So like, are you planning your mental break before you like bury you in the cave for 3 days?
Yeah, I reckon around the age
What's going on, fuckers?
I want Nacho Libre era of Jack Black is what I want.
Nah, dude, I want contemporary Jack Black for you.
Oh, dude, I'm loving Jack Black right now,
with
man.
with the big crazy hair and all of it, man.
He's got a fucking gaming YouTube channel with his son.
He does.
He's
fucking wild.
He's fucking steered so well into that later stage of his life career.
But also like he understands who he is. He's like, I'm a funny man, and where do the funny men go? The funny men go on the internet.
Fuck
today.
yeah.
Right? He knows what's up. He knows what his audience is. But King Kong, right? So that's a 3-hour flick. And the reason why it's 3 hours, this is the worst fucking reason to make a movie as long as I've ever heard in the history of cinema, right? Was because Peter Jackson loved King Kong and he didn't want King Kong to die. So he drags it out for as long as possible. I'm like, that is the worst fucking reason to make a movie I've ever heard in my life. Like, make that as your own and put that in your own personal spank bank and never release it to anybody. Don't subject me to that bullshit, right? Fuck off, Peter, right? So, like, I watched it, and the classic King Kong scene, of course, he executes it beautifully because Peter Jackson is an amazing filmmaker. He knows how to fucking shoot a movie. He's just absolute trash, right? And so the classic scene, the biplanes come and they shoot King Kong, and he goes, "Arr!" and he falls off the building and he falls flat on the ground and dies. At that point in the movie, me and my dad are sitting in the movie theater. We stand up and cheer. We're like, "Fuck yeah, he's dead. We can leave." Everybody looks at us like, "Are you fucking?" He's just died. King Kong has just died. And I'm just like, fucking A, right, he's just dead. Fucking burn, you big gorilla piece of shit. I want to leave this theater and go take a piss, right? I've been holding it in for 2.5 hours, right? I'm sick of this shit, right? Jack Black hasn't been in the movie for an hour at this point. I don't care anymore.
What the
right?
fuck, I would have left.
You know?
Like Jack Black, I actually remember he had that bit at the end where it's like, well, maybe we thought he was the empty weed bag, but we were the roaches all along.
Yeah, right? It's sort of like you could have made that movie an hour and a half and I probably would have cried at the end. But like you sapped all the energy and all of the emotion out of that scene by making it as long as you did.
Wait, I thought King Kong survived because he needed Skull Island and now he's fighting fucking...
Wait, what?
No, he's dead. No, he died at the end of the King Kong movie. That's all I know.
Aren't they doing like a trilogy now where it's King Kong versus every fucking titan of the world?
Yeah, but I mean, that always happens. Godzilla dies at the end of the Godzilla movie and then they make Godzilla 2. Godzilla Harder. Like that's that's how those movies work, right? I mean,
Electric Muthaloo.
Fuck.
Right? It's like they're kind of like now they want to make their own like Marvel universe of monster movies, right?
It's called something.
right,
if Ricky was here, he would know it.
You know it. I think it's called the Giant Monster Universe or some
shit like that.
Yeah.
I fucking love it.
Yeah.
I mean, that's all you need.
We don't need movies nowadays where it has to have a fucking like completely like really feelsy narrative tale that hits you 3 beats and it's going to be an Oscar-nominated movie, right? Some just need 2 fucking big-ass monsters going at each other for an hour and a half to 2 hours. There's nothing wrong with that.
That's literally all Captain America Civil War was. It was just sort of like, okay, we've heard you, right? We've heard you, nerds. You just want to watch Iron Man wail on Captain America for 2 hours. we got you.
Yeah, but then the first 30 minutes of that movie was still kind of setting it up. Whereas I'm talking like, I want the movie to start. I want to see King Kong come out of that water. I want to see fucking Godzilla come out from the fucking volcano.
Holy shit, if they fought each other.
I just want them to go at each other for an hour and a half. Like, just like fucking
yes.
10 round fucking fight. Every 10 minutes, maybe we cut over to some like supporting cast. We're just like, are you watching them fight right now? Can you believe it? And then you cut back for another half an hour and then punching into each other.
Like, it's actually, it goes for 10 rounds.
Yeah.
Just by coincidence of nature.
That was totally what Freddy vs. Jason was going to be for me. I can't remember that film, but I do remember them fighting. But I don't know how much of it was spent fighting. I like to believe most of the film was spent fighting.
Yeah. Speaking of which, you know who I blame for all of this? Rocky. Like, if you go back to it, of course, Rambo was based on a novel, and at the end of the novel, Rambo dies. But we can't have that because we have to have him go fight the communists in 2 and 3, and Rambo 26 million. So then when Sly Stallone... Actually, Rambo came a little bit after, didn't it?
Yeah,
So-
after the Rocky movies? Yeah.
Yeah,
I thought
'cause
Rambo
that
was first. Then he did Rocky. No, he did Rocky first because that's how he established himself in Hollywood, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, then he did Rambo.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Rambo was 80, mid-80s.
Yeah, but there's a gap between Rambo 1 and 2. So I think you've got another Rocky movie in between.
Yeah, that makes
He
sense.
did Rocky, Rambo, Rocky, Rambo, something like that.
Yeah, or something like that, yeah.
And of course, Rocky was his baby.
Yeah.
And it reads a lot more like Rambo than...
Is Rocky
Than the
on your
movie.
Mount Rushmore of action movies?
oh,
You
damn.
should have listened to a couple of
You
episodes
know-
ago when we had that discussion. Fuck.
Fuck it, yeah. I'm putting it up there because the main guy loses. Like,
Was
there's
that the
nothing
reason
like
you
that.
made, John?
No, I put Stallone in Rambo up.
Oh,
'cause
Rambo.
Yeah, because Rambo gives us hard body cinema.
Ah, true.
Hard body cinema.
Yeah.
I love that phrase. It's so American Psycho.
Yeah,
Like, yeah, like because it read a lot more like Rambo because he was allowed to lose and he was allowed to learn his lesson. So the tragedy wasn't necessarily there. Like he also won, but then he spun the hell out of it. And he had a lot of homeless time to think about this because of course he was on the streets and you know he had to sell his dog to live. It was a big tragic thing.
I love
So,
how you
like-
call it homeless time.
Well, we've all had
There's a
homeless time,
difference-
right?
Difference between normal people time and the time that homeless people have on
But
their
you,
hands.
you guys have always had a fixed address. Like we've all been homeless for like a week. So like and then all of a sudden they kind of go, well, okay, he's lost. Like Stallone has expressed himself. Now we're going to take charge of it and go, okay, now he's going to fight the next monster of the week or the year or whatever. He's going to come back at Apollo Creed, who has changed a little bit. We're going to make him a slightly more nuanced victim. Oh, here comes Mr. T. And it's bad guys all over. Oh, Russians. The Russians are here. So then this just kind of goes on forever. And now it's multi-generational. And we're doing the exact same thing with superheroes now. We kind of went, hang on, Marvel did this. Let's put that in 10 years of movies. And now
Yeah.
we're kind of going, hang on, Japanese monsters. I mean, I reckon in the year 2030, we're going to see a Bum Fights remake. Like,
Oh my
Give me
god.
Captain Underpants, but like put it into like a real life scenario.
Captain Underpants.
Ooh, who would you cast though as Captain Underpants? Because you got to have someone who's funny but also angry. See,
Fucking who was the guy that
No.
played the Thing and was in Shield?
Oh, yeah,
fucking
that guy.
bald dude, right?
Yeah,
That's-
bald dude,
Captain
big bald dude.
Captain Underpants is bald.
Yeah.
Is what I'm getting at.
Yeah. He could do it.
He could totally be. Captain
He could actually
Underpants.
see. In my mind, I was thinking the guy who plays his manager who plays
Use your words.
Whoa, fuck! What's his name? The wrestling guy, the guy that you like and I hate. What's his name?
The Rock.
What? Brock Lesnar?
Brock Lesnar. Brock Lesnar's
Brock
offsider
Lesnar.
guy.
Oh, Paul Heyman.
Paul Heyman. Paul Heyman. I reckon could do Captain
Gotta be
America.
bald. I feel like, in terms of like the acting ability, yeah, Paul Heyman could totally do it.
Can we
I
talk
think
about
Paul-
who
'cause-
Captain
'cause-
Underpants is?
in-
Because I have no idea.
You don't know
you
Captain
you don't know who
Underpants?
Captain
You
Underpants
didn't
is?
read a book as a child?
Like I read some books, but not that
I
one.
bet you're a Del Toro Quest.
Dude,
kind of guy.
you would
No.
love the Captain America books. Captain Underpants books. Holy
Same
shit.
thing.
They basically are in my mind. Like Captain Underpants is the American dream as far as I'm concerned.
Dude, like
Yeah,
my
okay.
childhood is summed up in 3 book series: Del Toro Quest, Captain Underpants, and fucking Specky McGee.
I don't know about Specky McGee. I tried Del Toro Quest. I read the first one and I was like, I'm not vibing
I was
on
big
this.
fantasy back then. Like
Right.
that to me was like if you were like. So like nowadays, obviously we exist in a lot of like fantasy-esque kind of like Game of Thrones,
Yeah.
akin to that. Then for kids, that was Del Toro's Quest.
Yeah, that
Like,
was
Del
it.
Toro Quest was that
Yeah.
answer for children.
Like the ones we were allowed to read back then.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly, right. No, Captain Underpants. So okay,
And then
so
Harry
real-
Potter hit you afterwards.
Real quick, like 5 minute summary of Captain Underpants, right? So it takes place at an elementary school, and these two kids, they're about 8, and they're comic book artists, and they like making comic books. And they make a comic book about a hero called Captain Underpants, who is a guy in his underpants, and he wears a cape, and he flies around, and he does cool shit, right? And then one day the kids order a hypnotizing ring out of the back of a magazine, and then they hypnotize their school principal, who's a complete and utter asshole to them all the time, and they hypnotize him so that whenever they snap their fingers, he becomes Captain Underpants. And then when he gets water poured on him, and then whenever he gets water poured on him, he turns back into the principal, right? But he has no idea. He like both personalities are not aware of each other. Right, so when he's Captain Underpants, he doesn't know that he's actually a principal at a school, and when he's the principal at the school, Principal Krupp, he doesn't know that he's Captain Underpants.
They gave their principal split personality disorder.
Pretty much, yeah. And so they snap their fingers, and the only thing Captain Underpants knows is, why am I wearing a suit and trousers? And he just rips them off, and then whenever water gets splashed on him, the principal's like, why am I in my underpants?
Oh, Grandpa!
Right, you're in detention. Right, they do a TV show on Netflix. It's kind of like, I mean, what I like about the TV show on Netflix is that it basically follows the books. Like, not in terms of like it follows the books strictly plot wise, but I mean like the tone that Dav Pikely set in those books was like, we're not.
Did you even know the author's name?
Yeah, he doesn't take the whole thing seriously. In fact, I would say that Captain Underpants is the Deadpool of like children's superheroes.
Oh, bang on! Yeah, you know
right?
what?
That's what he is. It's the Deadpool. It's the Deadpool of children's superheroes.
Like it's chaotic.
Del Toro Quest is the answer of Game of Thrones for children.
Yeah.
Captain Underpants is Deadpool.
Yeah.
And then Specky McGee is just, I guess, every sports movie for an adult.
Probably.
Like,
yeah. No, not in terms of its tone. Not in its tone, but also in its like it doesn't take itself seriously, and like will actively exploit the fact that like of its medium. To like make a joke. So like there was a whole, I think one of the books, the way that they resolved the plot was they were like, fuck it, just turn to the next page. You turn to the next page. Wow, we solved that problem, right? And it was like, we don't know what, and that was it.
That's awesome.
It's like you turn the next page and magically everything was fine because you turned a page and therefore anything that happened before didn't exist. So
I'd love to know what
no, that's right. Yeah, they escaped to the next page in the book and that's how they solved that problem.
I wish more people did that.
Right.
I'd love to know what the current landscape of children's books is, because I feel like something like Harry Potter will be timeless. Kids will read that forever.
Yeah.
Right? But like, I feel like things like Captain Underpants was definitely our time.
Yep.
Then there was a time just after ours, but not now, where it was Diary of a Wimpy Kid.
Yeah.
Like that was big for children then.
I saw the movie. I didn't mind the movie.
Obviously, I went with my brothers. So
I've never read any of the books, but Diary of a Wimpy Kid, the first movie, I've never seen the second one. The first one, I was like, yeah, this is all right.
Yeah.
That's the thing, though. Like, we're niching down now. Like, there are so many different kind of ways to get published, and then like there are so many different kids' books. Like, we're going to get to school, and we're all going to have a different book.
Yeah.
And like, our kids are just going to conquer us in like 20 years.
Yeah.
It's going to be ridiculous. But yeah, like, there's no way of telling what the next big thing's going to be, or even what the next big thing is now, because like we've segmented it into different things. How long have we got, by the way, Dave?
Yeah,
way to break the fucking fourth wall, Pete. I wasn't touching my watch. What are you talking about?
I just like, before this is over, I want to convert you to Fight Club.
Okay,
like,
pitch me Fight Club.
Okay,
Pitch me
here's the
Fight Club,
thing.
come on.
So you ever heard of a
The
philosopher
usual pitching voice.
called... So, have you ever heard of a philosopher called Diogenes the Cynic?
I've heard Diogenes. Yes, go on, please.
So, like, for those of you who don't know, Diogenes, like, Brad Pitt in Fight Club is based on this guy. And basically...
Sorry, just for the clarity of the audience, Diogenes, the philosopher, not the social club in London where Moriarty and like Sherlock Holmes' brother hang out.
Oh, there's a place called Diogenes.
Yeah,
That's cool. But yeah, there are a few of those. There are even like famous people called Diogenes in Melbourne right now. But like this one, he lived in a bathtub. He liked not having things, the point where like he only had a begging bowl, and then like he saw a kid drinking out of his hands and went, fuck the begging bowl. He just broke it and started drinking with his hands. He thought that the best life in the world was a dog's life. So of course that entailed jacking off in public. especially when like there was a big town
Pissing on
meeting.
poles, yeah.
He did piss on
As
people.
you do, you just bust a nut right there in the forum.
Yeah, if you have a nut, why not bust it? I mean, you bust a move, like you bust your son smoking. Sometimes you got to bust a nut in public.
I mean, have you seen the way the ancient Greeks dressed? Like, shit, the fact that they weren't busting more nuts is kind of amazing.
Yeah, like he'd bark at people when they called him a dog, and like he threw shit at them occasionally. And
Sounds like my kind of guy. What the fuck does this have to do with Fight Club?
well, it's actually like it's the point of Fight Club, but like this guy was so well known and so loved that Alexander the Great, who was like around at the same time as him, and so okay, little lineage. So like Diogenes learned from the guy who taught Aristotle's teacher, Socrates. But like he kind of went his own ways. Like, no, I could, put a girdle around the earth, but I'd rather jack off in public and live in a bathtub. So like, and Aristotle is Alexander the Great's teacher. So Alexander the Great loves Diogenes, this bathtub-dwelling naked man. So he goes to meet him in the course of his conquests. And he says, you know what, Diogenes, I like you so much. I'll give you literally anything. And Diogenes said, you're standing in my sunlight. Can you move aside? And that was all he wanted. He just wanted the shade out of his way.
The simple pleasures of life.
And
Nothing's too complicated.
And this is what he asked from the man who literally conquered the planet at that time. Like one of the few world conquerors, the only man to have ever conquered Afghanistan, right? And yeah, that's what.
Oh my god, that's actually such a fucking beautiful like philosophical tale.
Yeah,
like this man, like you just picture. I'm fucking picturing this in my head. This is such a brilliant thing to know. Like. Man who has literally everything, offering like his fan essentially. Like that whole idea of like the biggest people in the world, the most renowned, still have fans, right? And then all he wanted was just the simplest
just
thing.
like get out of my sun. His exact words translate best to "You're standing in my sun." That's about it. So Brad Pitt's character in Fight Club is Diogenes. Like when he starts appearing to the narrator and saying kind of like, oh yeah, so I see you're on your way to a business thing. Well, hey, did you know you can make a bomb with these ingredients? Anyway, I'm going back to my homeless house. The water's falling apart because that's what water can do.
You want some ass fat? I got ass fat for days.
It's like, come steal from some rich people with me. And
so Edward Norton's character is the conqueror.
No, he's just like a normal guy whose
like
mind is fracturing. Like, he's kind of the perfect America, where like, you're living in this position, being exploited like crazy. You don't know you're unhappy because you just keep buying stuff. And then like, so he's the opposite of the cynic. By the way, cynic comes from the Greek word kynikos, which means dog. So like, which is why they.
Is there anything you don't know, Pete?
I don't know. I don't sing so good, but like. Yeah, so that was the entire premise, and the idea is like, what if we take this perfect good old boy and we just throw him through the ringer, but the kind of ringer that would make a cynic really happy. So of course, like you have these two battling people, and the logical conclusion seems to be that they make an army, which is kind of Diogenes' thing because his big slogan was deface the currency. Like he just wanted to deface the currency of life because, like coins, they have pictures of kings on them. He just wanted to destroy that shit and destroy the money in the process. And that's kind of what happens in Fight Club. Like
they start the beginning of communism.
Kind of. Like Tyler Durden is what these days you would call an eco-terrorist, where like he just wants to bring down everything, and he describes like, the skyscrapers have been taken back by the earth. There's ivy growing up the Empire State Building. And meanwhile, there's what's left of us down there, like walking through the trees that are poking out through the roads, and we're hunting venison like we always have. And that's basically Fight Club.
It's on Netflix, dude. You should
I
watch
know
it.
it's on Netflix.
You got to watch it. And with that, we'll call it there this week. So I want to thank my guests, David and Peter. Peter, thank you for joining us.
Thanks for joining us, Pete.
Thanks, you guys.
What do
you got coming up?
You got anything coming up? You want
a
to share?
little bit of everything. I'm starting off from scratch. Like I'm like talking myself into the jobs I like, driving some Uber. I'm going to start publishing some novels under Peter S. Matthews, and pretty much everything else. You'll run into me in some open mics. I'm going to write some articles for disabled people, a little bit of everything, but Peter S. Matthews, if you want to hear from me in like 6 months' time. I want to write some cyberpunk or whatever you get away with these days. Because we can't do cyberpunk anymore because the dial-up days are gone. We don't have the troubles anymore. And that's me.
Yeah, cool. All right, fantastic. So yeah, everybody, interested Peter Matthews wherever he lands. Yeah, I'm not really sure what to do with that one. All right, well, with that, if you like this episode, please, tell a friend about it. We're on Spotify, we're on iTunes, we're everywhere. You can find podcasts. Hopefully, we'll be on Google soon because Google just announced that they're going to allow you to listen to podcasts right inside Google search. So as soon as Google gets around to sussing our podcast, which I told them to suss, I said to Google, yo, Google, suss my shit. And they're like, we'll get to it when we get to it. So whenever they get to it, we'll be there.
They're not getting to it.
Yeah, they'll get to it eventually. And with that, this has been Pint Party. Cheers.
Cheers.
Hashtag cancel Pint Party.
This is a Hartefact Network podcast. Find us at hartefactstudios.com.au.